Hello and welcome to Working Tools Masonic Podcast, where today will be part 2 of our discussion with Most Worshipful Brother Charles Wood, Grand Master of Washington.
Ladies and gentlemen, brethren all, welcome to the Working Tools Podcast, a casual conversation around Freemasonry. First, it's important to note that our opinions and thoughts are our own and do not reflect those of our Grand Lodge or respective craft or concordant bodies. Please connect with us and ask questions, either here on YouTube or on our Facebook page. We'd also appreciate a thumbs up and especially any comments on our videos.
Welcome back to the Working Tools Masonic Podcast. I'm Matt Appel, and with me is David Colbeth, and we're Master Masons here in the Grand Lodge of Washington, and Stephen Chung, who's up in British Columbia, and we have with us Most Worshipful Brother Charles Wood, who is the Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Washington. Welcome back there, Most Worshipful Sir.
Thank you for the invite.
So we're trying to, after our last episode was mostly about the response to the coronavirus, we're going to try and steer away from that this time, but I know that you've started this year with a series of initiatives that you were going to encourage the Grand Lodge to meet over the course of your term. Would you mind talking about those a little bit?
Sure. First of all, we are at about 85% of my $40,000 goal. We are sitting around 35,000, and we still have a couple more months to go. I mean, the brothers have really stood up, and this was accomplished without selling a single tie, pin, or a coin. And I came up with the idea because I had heard a couple of younger brothers mention to me, why is it every year it's a brand new tie, a brand new pin, and a brand new coin in order to raise funds for whatever the Grand Master has chosen as a charity? And I said, you know what? Why don't we just knock off the middle guy and let's just say, hey, I challenge you to raise $40,000 for Washington Masonic Charities, for the Honor Flight Program, for distressed worthy Master Masons, widows, and orphans. And they have a program that is centered around keeping kids that are homeless and so on and living on the streets or single parent families, keeping them in school to graduate with at least 12 years of education. And I think those are really, really honorable goals. And the brothers have stood up. The Grand Lecturer came to me, Steve Martin, with an idea. And of course, we all know he's very much into rainbow, and they do a lot of ritual competitions. And he came up with a new idea of ritual competition for a 3-man team, which has to consist of the Worshipful Master, Senior Warden, Junior Warden. They must be all members of their lodge and be able to open and close just like you would if you were doing the proficiency in lodge management. And then he had another idea, and this is opened up to a fellow craft and a Master Mason to do the G lecture and the apron lecture. The last I heard from him, and that was about a week ago, there are 4 regionals that are ready to go and compete. That is amazing. 4 out of 8 regions. 50% of them have had people stand up and say, yeah, we're going to do it. We're going to be the best. And I liked his idea because I think it's embarrassing to make a man a Mason. And he's been told he's got to memorize and so forth. And the first thing he sees after he's become a Mason, brothers can't close lodge without having to read it. Or if they read it, it's like they haven't read it before, or they're trying to do it by memory, and they just bumble the way through it. And I said, that's a great thing. Put ritual back in. It's not going to be the salvation of the fraternity, but it's important when it's done properly. And I agreed to it. So they've stood up to that. As I've traveled, I've seen buildings being fixed up, which is really great. There are some buildings that are already in great shape. So they're working on the inside of their buildings, cleaning them up. and so forth. And that's heartwarming to know that the brothers are taking pride in the buildings that were left to them to take care of by those who preceded us. That's the legacy they left us behind to preserve. Just all the initiatives that I put out, the brothers just stood up to, and I'm proud of them.
Well, I think that raised $40,000 without the cost of having a tie or a pin involved.
Yeah.
How much more do you think that actually raised by not having a cost factor?
Put it this way: if you wanted to raise $40,000 net, right? 50% is cost. You have to sell $80,000 worth of material to raise $40,000. This way, just write a check and send it in, any amount. I challenge at least 40, because that's what they would spend if they did go buy the pin, the tie, and the coin here in Washington. That's the way it's been. So figure it out. Cut out the middle guy. Just write a check for $40.
That's awesome.
Send it in.
And that might save, the ritual might save the fraternity, because that's one of the big things that sets us apart from any other organization is our ritual. And guys taking pride in their ritual, it does have a severe impact on lodges in all organizations, in all our coordinating bodies. It's especially in the Scottish Rite, they hold themselves to that higher standard, and they take a lot of pride in doing quality work.
And the other two that I talked about was reduce by a third the number of NPDs that we've experienced in the past. Because now you would have, if you slow down the NPDs, you'll have those brothers to work with, to work them through the chairs and educate them, train them, live up to our obligation. Slow down the demits. The same holds true to them. We have one heck of a long backlog in entered apprentices and fellowcraft. What if you reduce those by a third? What if you reduce all three of those by a third? How many more men would you have in lodge? And if you made your lodges interesting in education and so on, they could be the future leaders of our organization. And they've been doing it. I hear a lot of good things happening as I've traveled throughout the state, reading up petitions, degree work going on. And then the lodges are starting to fill up a little bit. And that's heartwarming.
Yeah, it's purely anecdotal, but it seems like the lodges in our district, at least, have had a fair number of degrees to do lately, which is a good thing. Out of curiosity, do you have you knew how much money you had raised for the one goal? Do you know if NPD's gone down compared to this time last year, the year before? Or?
I haven't gone into the database and done a search on it yet because of the other things that have been going on. Because right now I'm in the process of starting to write my Grandmaster's report, and I am going to report back on all 6 challenges so the brothers will know. As I stated at Grand Lodge when I became Grandmaster, these are the challenges I'm challenging to do. That's why I'm in the East. At the end of my year, I will report back, and I'll let you know how well you did. And hopefully you'll continue on after that with those challenges, because it's not something that's just going to get fixed overnight. It's going to have to be a long-range commitment.
I look forward to hearing about the successes of that.
Yep. It'll be in my report, because the last time something like that was done, Most Worshipful Brother Jim Mendoza did it, but he challenged the committees to do things, not the brothers, per se, as a whole. The last one that did that was actually Chuck McCreary, who is no longer with us. Bless his heart, live in peace. Challenged the brothers and gave them goals when he was Grandmaster. And when he made his report, he told them exactly how well they did. And that's where I got the idea.
I'm sorry to bring it down for a second, but just on what you said about Chuck, I heard a rumor that Most Worshipful Brother Sat is in the hospital. Is he doing okay?
Yes, he's doing all right.
Okay, good.
He came out of the surgery A-okay. I don't know the full story, so I won't elaborate on it. His wife has been in touch with our Grand Secretary and so on, keeping him informed and so forth. And we've been putting out a little news bulletins, at least I've been told they are, to let people know that, he's doing okay, but he can't have any visitors because most of your hospitals are shut down.
Right.
When it comes to outside help, even when you're a family member, because, how do they know if you're carrying or not carrying?
Yep.
So it's a security issue.
Yep. Well, I'm glad to hear he's doing well. Sorry to sidetrack us.
No. I think the world is sad. He's somebody I talk to quite frequently. So it's been a great year. It's more than I expected. And, the challenges have been there. But as a team, we work through them. And that's what a team does, working together. It makes for, a strong relationship. And I think the brothers appreciate that when the team is working together as a whole and so forth. I've always said, and that comes from my military experience, you lead by example. And you lead from the front, not from the rear. And hopefully that's what I've done.
It does seem it's good to hear that the higher ups in the organization are working together. It's sometimes when one grandmaster is elected and 1 year he wants to go that way, and then the next grandmaster is elected and he wants to go that way, and it doesn't always feel like a continuity of leadership there. And it's good to hear that you guys are talking a lot and working this out together.
Well, they're going to continue when it comes to membership. I know Chris is on board, Cameron's on board, Ed Woods is on board, and Steve, he has said he likes the direction that he has seen Grand Lodge going and the way the leadership's going, because, our membership problem will not get fixed overnight. It's going to take time, and it's going to take a lot of concentration and devotion, to right the ship. But we can do it. I have all the faith in the world of my brothers out there that we can do it. Along with the youth organizations, we continue to support them. They'll thrive. And let me add a little thing to that. I was asked by a member of a concordant body how I was going to help their body grow. And I said, I can't go out and direct men and their wives to join your organization. But I said, what would help is if you got a good working relationship with the lodges in your area, and got them to buy in and gave them a reason to buy in, so that when a new man became a Master Mason, you could go and talk to him and his family, find out if they have youth, let them know about the youth groups, let them know about our concordant body groups, and so on. But when you do that, you got to give them a reason to continue to come once you get them to join. I said, you guys got to do the heavy lifting, but form a good, close working relationship with those lodges and get them to give you that information. Then you go and talk. Because I sat down one place with a new Master Mason. He had no idea there were youth groups or even concordant body groups where the husband and the wife can go to a meeting together as a family. And that's what we got to promote.
His lodge needs the Steps to Initiation program.
Huh? What was that, Steve?
His lodge needs the Steps to Initiation program.
It's a 6 steps program,
yeah. But we have the tools and we have the know-how. We just got to put them to work.
I've always said the best recruiting tool for Masonry is when one guy says to another guy, hey, you want to go out for a beer after work? And the guy says, no, I can't. I'm going to lodge tonight. But that's the best recruiting tool we have is when someone is dedicated and interested enough to go to lodge and to tell his buddy about it that, nope, sorry, can't go out tonight. I'm going.
You bet.
And that's what gets the buddy interested. So, David, knowing you've got about 8 questions written down over there.
This is the other best recruiting tool.
I would agree, Stephen. I wear my Sons of Hiram. I belong to the motorcycle riding group Sons of Hiram, and I wear my vest everywhere, and it's got to be a 6 or 10 inch symbol on the back of it. And I was out trying to stir up some supplies today that I needed, and a young man stopped me in the store and he says, hey, I'm interested in that. Is that a Masonic symbol? And he had some questions that were maybe a little further away out there than but I thought, you know what, I'm going to stop and talk to this guy, even though we had to stay 6 feet apart. Stop and talk to this young man and explain to him about Masonry and kind of correct some misinformation he had a little bit about. But there's still this mystery of what Masonry is and what it isn't. And it kind of still frustrates me to this day that even within our own fraternity, there's a mystery of Masonry, or mystery, the myths of Masonry. I keep threatening I'm going to write a book about that. One of them, of course, is the idea that there's these guys that are in their 40s and 50s that are just becoming Masons now because they didn't realize were supposed to ask their dad or their uncle or their grandpa about Masonry. And unfortunately, in that previous generation, it was very secret, very taboo to talk about Masonry to your son or nephew or other people. And they wouldn't say where they're going or what they're doing. And I think it's much different now. I don't know if you would agree, Grandmaster. Nowadays, I think the generation has changed, and our message as Masons have changed that, hey, yeah, we can't give you any secrets, but we want you to know what's happening. I sat across from a table 2 years ago or 3 years ago at Lodge Leadership Retreat, where again, and that was a young man then, 45, 50 years old, had just joined. He would see his uncle and his dad leaving for Lodge all the time in suits, and he didn't know what they were doing. And he didn't ask his dad until he was in his 40s. And his dad, of course, the old line, well, it's about time. Well, is it? I think that you've missed 20 years of relationship you could have had with your father and uncle. And so that's disappointing, but I think it's changing now. I think that idea of promotion and discussion, and we've done a great job. I know you're continuing that process with the public relations and the radio ads and that kind of thing. And so that's continuing to try and change the message about Masonry to the public.
Well, and when you talk about promotion and whatnot, and some guys are a little reserved when it comes to talking about putting an ad out or something like that. And I did the real simple things last year, or pardon me, a year and a half ago for our lodge. I set up a Facebook page and a Google page, and we have 2 fellows that I'm working with right now in the steps to initiation. One came from the Google page, one came from the Facebook page. And of course he says, your phone number is wrong on the Facebook page. Instead of 250, it says 205. I said, you passed the first test.
When we have a district meeting, one thing I mentioned to him is, somebody walks up to you and just said, are you a Mason? My answer to them is, yeah, proud to be one. Would you like to know a little bit more about it? Once you get them talking, and then you get them to start asking questions, and you're asking questions back, because then you get a 2-way conversation going. It's amazing what happens afterwards.
Yeah. I get all kinds of questions all the time when I'm wearing my vest, especially when I first had it on. People would ask me, either people that didn't know about Masonry, or they wanted to know about Masonry, or even better, I always enjoy the ones that, hey, yeah, I was an apprentice in their local lodge, or I was a Mason and haven't been active. How do I get reconnected? Those are the conversations I really love, is to try and be that ambassador, attempt to be that ambassador for Masonry.
It's all about being, having pride in what you are.
Yeah. So I know your schedule, Grandmaster, is so full. And right now it's not. I know that this timing is not great, but it has been so full and so busy. And how do you manage that? How do you manage that kind of? You talked to me a little bit the other day about how you coordinated your schedule so you can kind of hit areas of the state or parts of the country, or have other people do things for you in your as your representative.
Okay, that sounds like a 2-part question. What I did is when I was junior warden and I was traveling, I was watching what other grandmasters were doing. And a lot of times, let me go back it up. When I first made myself available, where you are expected to go to district meetings, I'd be looking at the calendar, and there were times I wouldn't know where I was going to go until maybe a week to 2 weeks before we actually left. I'm going, why? Never got a straight answer. And then when I got elected, it kind of pursued the same course. Masters just went down, well, we're going here, but, where's it going to be? I don't know. Well, then they would set it. Well, if you're trying to make hotel reservations, you got to make them in advance. So what I did, as soon as I became Deputy Grand Master, I sat down with the state of Washington, and I put every single district and where it was located on a map, north, south, east, west. Then I started grouping them together in 3s. What can I do on a Friday night? Then where can I be on a Saturday morning and on a Saturday evening? Try to do 3 district meetings on a weekend, right now, if you did that in 9 or 10 weeks, you'd be done.
Yeah.
And if you look at some of the past Grandmasters things, they were starting right in September, and they weren't getting done until way into April, and so on. I said, that's, you can't plan that way. So when I had my district get together with my district deputies, the new and the old, I said, very shortly, you're going to get a notice from me when I'm going to be in your area. I'm going to tell you what date and hopefully what time, and I want you to tell me where. And you got until the end of July to get it done. If not, I'll select it. You'd be surprised how fast they responded, saying, this is where we're going to go, and yes, your time will work.
Matt, was that how it worked for you?
As a matter of fact, it is. Actually, as deputy, I think you were the first deputy Grandmaster that at least that since I've been paying attention, that you put your calendar out for the year that you were Grandmaster on the website.
Yes.
Still deputy Grandmaster, and that made it a lot easier for, at least for me, to plan, where one, I wanted to be on when, and knowing that stuff ahead of time was really great.
Well, this is what I've done. I've already, if you look, you'll see Chris's calendar up on the website already.
Yep.
By the time you get done in January and February, your year's starting to wind down, and the deputy Grandmaster needs all the time he can get to get his calendar working and get people on board and get introductions. A couple of district meetings we went to, the district deputies are being replaced. I let Jim go out and introduce who the replacements are, so the people know right up front. Why not?
Yep.
I'm trying to, anyway, it's just all about planning.
Yeah, and sometimes
scheduling. And I told the team, I says, we're going to do it this way because, one, it's kind of like maximize the effort when you travel, minimize the cost, and be prudent and careful with the monies you're spending, because that's what the brothers expect us to do. And this worked.
Well, and it makes sense as part of, as I think you put it, Matt, I can't mind fart again, the concurrent planning, the succession planning for the next person.
Yeah.
It makes sense to have that already in place and schedules already in place. And I know in the past when I was deputy, and not to throw anybody under the bus, but when I was deputy, and as Matt pointed out, starting to pay attention, it did seem like there was this secret time that the deputy Grandmaster can't go and talk to anybody. And I get it, it's out of respect for the Grandmaster, but really the Grandmaster should have respect for the deputy Grandmaster because he's going to be Grandmaster in a year. So I think it's a mutual respect for everybody that if you're working together in succession planning, and I'll throw a pitch in there for long range planning.
There you go. But it's all about working together as a team. I have the utmost respect for the deputy Grandmaster behind me, and I'm going to do everything to make his life as easy, to transitioning into it as easy as I can, and getting and letting him introduce the new deputy in a district. Now those people know who the replacement is, instead of always going around, hey, who's replacing you? We haven't heard anything. Hey, why not? Let it be.
And half the people know. It's always like the worst kept secret in masonry.
Yeah, but so why not let it be broadcasted and made public, and let the deputy Grandmaster say, this is going to be my district deputy. This is who I've selected.
And again, for that continuity, for that transition in districts too, it's to have a guy all of a sudden now it's the new guy overnight, and he doesn't know what he's doing and hasn't been able to plan. And there should be some training. I know we've got some great deputy training programs now, which were implemented just as I was coming in. I think. I mean, they maybe have been there in the past, but a team was stood up. I think it was my second year, and so it was nice to get some training as a new person. But it was, by the time I got the training, it was too late. It was like August, September. I was already deputy. Well, it's almost too late by that point. But I guess they're training them now earlier. But still,
our training for our district deputies coming up actually would have been early next month, and they would have been all trained up before Grand Lodge in June. But this thing, the succession assistance that you guys are talking about, we just had them. Our Grand Lodge officers just did that. They all agreed to a program, the goals that needed to be achieved, and so everybody from the junior grand warden in that line up has agreed to work together to maintain these goals as they go, and it's apparently making a big difference in continuity moving forward.
And it's the unfortunate part of the term limits, if you will, of everybody having 1 year as Grand Master. Is it's hard to do goals consistently like that.
There are quite a few jurisdictions, including Prince Hall here in Washington State, that have a 2-year Grand Master. There's quite a few in the United States that have 2-year Grand Masters. Mm-hmm. And you really can get a lot done in a 2-year time frame because you have that transit. Everybody now knows what you're trying to get done. You start to implement it, and now you can push on with it. In the second year, you're really following up on it. I've talked to Lester Dixon, who's the Grand Master of Prince Hall, and he says it's worked out great. Mm-hmm. So who knows? So what was the second question? I done forgot there, David.
Well, you had talked about the same thing, planning and trying to get out to events and things, and you're not able to. And so you've mentioned several times that you've got a great team, and you alluded that you ask some of your teammates, Deputy Grand Master, Senior, Junior Grand Award, and whatnot, to be somewhere else in your place. Well, it's great for you to be there as Grand Master. You know, you don't physically have the time or the whatever to be able to be everywhere, and so you have someone else represent you.
Well, this started with Jim Kendall. You know, I told Jim that most worshipful brother Jim Kendall, that anything I could do to help him when I was his deputy, I said, you let me know. And so I went and attended quite a few things on his behalf, which was really like a trial run for me, and it was great. And I made a decision when, you know, if I can't go down to Nevada, but one of the other lodge officers would like to go to Nevada, well, then go down to Nevada and represent me, because I can't go to Nevada. And maybe at the same time, there's another one going on. Well, I can't be 2 places at the same time. This gives them a little more experience. It lets them be introduced. It sometimes will cut down on costs, because if you're representing the Grand Master, usually your meals will be paid for, you know, banquet meals, not breakfast, lunch, and so on, but, you know, banquet meals are paid for. That can get rather spendy. And all you do is pay for your travel down and your hotel room, so it cuts back. And they love doing it. And it gives them good experience and exposure. And they get relationships going, like going over to Idaho, going down to Oregon, go up to BC. It works within our conference. And I just think it's a good thing to let them get out there. Yeah. And I think they're going to continue it.
Talking about travel, one of my first times, or is my first time at Grand Assembly for Rainbow, was last year, and I think that was one of your first events that you came and spoke at, other than I will promote King Solomon Strawberry Feed that hopefully will happen again this year. We'll see. But anyway, at Rainbow you came and spoke, and again, I don't know if that was one of your first bigger events that you came to or not, if you had something else, but you talked about a message that you had as part of your speech, and I'll put it in the back of your mind, and maybe we can close with this in a few minutes. The idea of Masons being a point of light. And yes, I thought, wow, that was just that segment, that little sentence or 2 or 3 or 4, whatever it was a really moving and powerful impact for me. And again, if you want to think about it, and we have some more questions, we can close with that. I think we're getting pretty close here, but okay. I think that was a neat.
What I've said is that, you know, we have what so many people are looking for. It's like being out in the desert on a dark night or traveling. And I lived down in Arizona, and I'd go through Nevada at night on coming home or going back. And off in the distance, you would just see that little light on the horizon out there. And you're headed towards it, and you're saying, wow, I just want to get there. That's what Masonry is right now. We are that little glimmer of light, which goes back to the ceremonial light of Demolay. We're that little shiny light that so many people are looking for. And when you're asked about it, say, yeah, I am a Mason, or I belong to the Masonic family. You know, I'm a Demolay or a Rainbow, whatever. Would you just like to know a little bit more about us? You know, we have what people are looking for. They just don't know how to come up and ask us for it. Is that what you're talking about?
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, we are what so many people are looking for. And, people have asked me, well, how do you guys get along in the lodge? I says, through respect. One person talks and sits down, and the next person gets up and talks. And we're respectful, and so on. And that's how we get things done. We don't holler and scream like we see going on public TV and so on. We don't operate that way. And neither do our youth organizations or the other organizations. We are what people are looking for. Got to be prepared to deliver, though. You make a promise, you got to deliver. Live up to it. It's so important, especially with the younger generation. They want you to deliver on what they're looking for, especially when you promise to help them to become a better person.
Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you for that. Appreciate that, Grandmaster.
You bet.
That's a great message. Fantastic message.
Thank you.
So, the one last question that I'd like to ask you, at least, is the about the slogan that you've chosen for your year that's on your pin. If you'd like to talk about that briefly.
One Masonic family living united. It's very simple. We're all one big family. Yes, we have ladies organizations, we have youth organizations. And I look at it as a family, and that is, if we all pull together and work together, we will survive. Because, it's like a house divided will crumble. A family that's divided crumbles, but a family that's working together will survive. And when you look at the color of the hands, what I was trying to transmit was unity. And it makes no difference who you are or what you are. And that's why I chose the hands of different colors, showing that, hey, we are one big family, and we will get there together. And hopefully people are saying, yeah, we can do this. We can get it done.
That's a pretty cool pin.
Thank you. I designed it.
Very cool.
Thank you. But, we will survive. And hopefully, and here's one thing I want you guys to think about. We just got done celebrating 300 years. And 300 years of legacy, has been left to us to carry on and to push forward with. I hope that 300 years from now, they can look back at us and say, yes, they turned things around, they righted the ship, and they left us a good legacy, and that's why we're still here 300 years after us. I hope they'll say that our generation started the ball rolling, and then, the next generation keeps it going. That's my hope anyway.
Yeah, so Mo to be.
Thank you, brothers.
Well, on that note, looking into a brighter future, I'd like to say thank you to Most Worshipful Brother Charles Wood for being on our podcast today and for speaking with us about his year. And on behalf of David Colbeth and Stephen Chung and myself, Grandmaster, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for the invite, and God bless all, and have a great weekend.